Hello, it's me, Sucha, here, coming at you from a very different environment than I usually am because I'm based in San Diego, and I don't know if you could tell, I need to get to a better angle actually. I don't know if you could tell, but I am in basically a winter wonderland. This place just got frosted up last night and I'm new to snowy climate. I have the absolute pleasure to stay in the cutest little barn apartment with one of my longest time dear friends, Bronwyn, who's one of my first friends in San Diego. We used to collab because she's a photographer. I was running events, and it's just one of those friendships where like 8 years later it feels like, yeah, I mean, we've seen each other in the midst of all of that, but she's lived here for about 5 years now, and it's my first time visiting and just spending more than a week with her. I'm here with my partner as well, so it's just been really nice. So many deep talks. Definitely need someone to cozy up and cuddle with in this weather. It's crazy. But this is actually part 2 of our trip, and it was spontaneous. This was potentially going to be a stop of our original trip. And if you've seen one of my videos a few weeks back, it was about our trip to the Central Coast. But I kind of explained that our original intention of our trip this season was to go all the way from San Diego up through Oregon and to Washington and really do that entire California coastal trip and just explore and be in nature and camp in different places and stay in different places. And we made it up to the Central Coast before things got kind of heavy and overwhelming. And I share and unpack that in the video, but we came back and we're like, we still have this desire to do a trip. We wanted to pack lighter and just really work on even deeper surrender to be in the present moment, because you can have everything. You can set yourself up to feel financially peaceful, which is what I did. You can set yourself up to have all of the gear you need, which in our case, it almost feels like we overpacked, literally filled up my SUV to the brim. And you can make all the plans and do all the things, but if you are not able to say yes to the present moment and embrace the miracle in every single thing, like oh my gosh, this is bouncing off snow. There's a miracle present to you in every single moment. And it's really easy to forget that. It's so easy to forget that there's so much magic in the small, mundane things. And when you don't have plans, when you don't feel like you've got it figured out, when you don't feel like you're doing the things that feel productive to feel and attain success or what you thought your life should be, it can definitely send you into dark holes. I know so many people go through this, and in this season of not working, even though it's intentional, even though my partner and I are choosing not to look for work and not to immerse into too many projects at this time, it can still give you this feeling of emptiness and feeling lost and almost feeling like you have so many options that it brings up overwhelm because you don't know if you should do them all, or if you do nothing and you're almost feeling paralyzed of like, what should I do next? And so all that being said, really diving into those talks and decompressing in the past 2 weeks, and then deciding to come here, and it's now been a week, like a little over a week actually, being here. It has been so beautiful. I'm so grateful to be staying with my friend, but to also have my partner with me, and it's felt like the perfect balance of time with my partner, getting to explore a new place together. We've both never been up to this area of Truckee and Lake Tahoe, but also feeling just like so many long hours with no limitations of time with a really dear friend of mine. Yesterday night, we decided to have a movie night, Bronwyn and me, and we watch this movie, It Ends With Us. If you are a Blake Lively fan, if you've watched Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, if you're in it for a deep movie, I highly recommend this one. I thought it was gonna be just your average chick flick, and I knew the acting would be great, but we were blown away by this movie, and I'm still processing it. But yeah, it's just had all the things. And then the other thing is, like, literally winter wonderland here today. Fresh layer of frost on everything. But the day we came here a week ago, it was 70 degrees. It actually felt warm because when the sun is just beaming, and there was blue skies every single day. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if today ends up being a blue sky later in the day, because that's how many of the days have been like here. It like looks all gloomy, and even after it's snowing or before it's snowing, blue sky, sunny skies. But we have seen so many fall colors here. Literally, I feel like we came here on the last official few days of fall, and we're on this precipice of winter starting here. And it is really surreal for me to be amongst the pines. Bronwyn's backyard is literally the foot of Tahoe National Forest, and so that's where I'm walking here right now. And just having so much nature to breathe in, an abundance of nature. I've been diving into this audiobook by this woman named Mia Magic, and you know, I think everyone has their own version of source or God. And I think God can be a very powerful term to use for your creator, divine spirit, the universe. All of those things are all going to hit differently. But what has been really beautiful about this book, it's called Intuition, by Mia Magic, and she is really diving into connecting with your inner witch, and she really breaks down like why the term witch has been demonized and taboo, but how we have our inner witch within us, and how she uses the term goddess a lot, and how nature is literally the source of so much magic and pleasure and healing and divine guidance. And so I honestly just stumbled upon that book. I've watched her YouTube videos, listened to podcasts, but it came up on my radar. I'll link it below, and I'll link the movie below that we watched, It Ends With Us. But this book had I'm only about halfway through, but it's had so many nuggets on just how to just tap in and tune in more with nature. Nuggets of astrology. Today is literally the Scorpio new moon, and I've been just getting my hands and feet wet in astrology for the past 2 years or so. Scorpio season is definitely one that I feel great to dive into more, because my partner Kevin is a Scorpio, and the more I learn and unpack the nature of Scorpio, it reveals so much, and it just makes so much sense that it's, you know, in this time of end of October, beginning of November. I feel like it's the fall, so much change, so much shifting, the seasons are heavily shifting, and all of a sudden you feel this call to go deep, to go inward, and Scorpio is deep and inward. Specifically, this new moon could be a really great time for manifesting, and usually you can plant the seeds and revisit them about 6 months later. But it's been really beautiful to reflect on, and specifically I want to share a little bit about my journey, my sexual journey, my journey with sexuality, because it is almost polar opposite than my partner. And my partner being a Scorpio can find, this may not apply to everyone, but Scorpio can find deep pain and pleasure and healing through sex. And for me, coming from a culture that there's a lot of shame around it, no one talks about it, even though sex is literally what creates us, and it is such a portal for healing, and that is something that I've experienced more and more. But it's something that It used to be very performance driven for me. I never thought to like really dive into and pay attention to my own pleasure or ask myself questions of what feels good for me. And I won't really share any details of my partner, specifically his past. Maybe one day we'll both come on here and talk about it, because I know there's a deep calling to share about it. But for me, you know, it's definitely something that when I'm not feeling embodied, and when I have tears that I'm holding back, and when I am feeling angst, and when I'm not saying yes to the magic and the present moment, I avoid, and I feel it in my body so viscerally. And it's easy to say, you know, I need to feel good in my body to open up sexually, but sometimes, and more often than not, the actual sex is what opens you up and allows you to feel more embodied and in tune with your body. I'm gonna drop one more book recommendation here. I've gone through 2 book clubs around the book called The Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong. This book is on the up and up, but if you are a woman, or a man, but especially a woman, I highly recommend diving into this book. It's really about how women are interacting with men in relationship and understanding men and how they work. And the chapter, it's like pumpkin hours, something like that, pumpkin dessert. The chapter is called something like that, but it's alluding to sex and everything she breaks down in that chapter. It's really cool because the book is written as more of a story, so it's not like a self-help chapter, which I have been a little bit overwhelmed with how much self-help is out there. So the way this book is written is really refreshing because it's a beautiful story to follow along. But they really dive into sex, and one of the nuggets there is when the woman is opening up and saying, like, when she does open up to sex, it really does connect her back with her body. And it's so crazy how much reprogramming we have to do and unlearning around sex, because I think arguably it is one of the biggest pillars in relationship. It really needs to be one of those big foundations. It is such a portal for connection, creation, understanding yourself, and relationship definitely mirrors so much. Like, if you want to learn things, if you want to understand yourself, if you want to know all your triggers and your shadows, being in a relationship is going to bring up all of that shit. And then the layer deeper is sex, because it has to do with your physical body, but I feel like it has to do with your chakras and your soul and your connection to the divine, your creator. And so that's going to bring up a lot, and it's not always going to feel perfect. And you and your partner might have different types of desires, or different desires of frequency, different needs, different wants around that. And continuously having that be a place of conversation and checking in. So again, coming back to the avoidance, like, I will sometimes feel this lingering of like, oh my gosh, we need to have sex, we need to connect sexually. I know my partner's wanting this. And he is so patient. He will prefer to just pause and talk to me and open up and even give and let me receive, which was a really beautiful experience a few days ago. But it started with just sitting in silence. And I noticed this impatience, the same impatience I feel, you know, moments during this trip and other trips where I'm like having this resistance with the present moment. And I just sat with it, and I sat with him, and we were just staring in each other's eyes, and tears started to come. And a lot of times when I have this like deeply rooted pain that needs to transmute, like most of the time I don't even know why the tears are coming. I just know they're coming. I know they need to be released, but my throat starts to build up and feel this pain, and I just let myself cry, and then I just let myself receive, and it was exactly what I needed. My digestion was more unlocked after that. And yeah, all that to say, Scorpio, even if you're not dating a Scorpio, if you're not a Scorpio yourself, potentially this season could be an unearthing there. And it doesn't even need to be exploring sexuality with a person if you're not in a relationship. This could just be a deep exploration with yourself, and sexuality doesn't need to be always an orgasm or physically trying to pleasure yourself. I think that's where we get it wrong, because I've tried that. I've tried, like, let me pleasure myself. Let me just try to give myself an orgasm, and it just doesn't work like that. We are way more sensitive and complex, and we're not mechanical like that. And so being present with yourself, noticing what this gentle touch feels like, the sensations, the cold or the warmth in your hand, what a hot shower feels like, what different aromas feel like, noticing all of that, and not always linking the pleasure to like happiness. A lot of times the pleasure and the joy is going to be linked with deep pain and sorrow and shadows. And that was actually something that came up in the movie It Ends With Us. I don't want to give it away if you haven't seen it, but it was so bittersweet and beautiful because the characters in the movie, they've had really intense, crazy things happen to them. And even though they transmute that and they heal through that and they experience that and let all of the shadows and the pain and the traumas come up in relationship and in the relationships within the movie, they, it never goes away. They're living with that. But it's like, can you feel such joy and gratitude and bliss while feeling the pain and the sorrow and the deep sadness? And so feeling it all, letting yourself go deep in this season. And if you can, connecting with friends, family, if that's available for you. I know sometimes that's the most difficult one. And relationship to, challenge yourself and everyone to dive deeper in conversation. I have another recommendation, a lot of recommendations today, but I have this card deck, and it's the Esther Perel card deck. If you haven't heard of Esther Perel, she's an incredible, I think she's a psychologist, but she is a speaker. She's on a ton of podcasts, and she's written amazing books, and it's all about relationships and sex, but really relationships as a foundation to heal all parts of your life and go deeper within yourself. And so this card deck is kind of like a conversation card deck, and there's several cards that are just really, they can get sexual, they can get deep, really meant for someone that you're probably in relationship with or even exploring relationship with. And there's other ones that you can use with friends. And honestly, if you feel tight enough with your friend, you can probably do the ones that are more sexual and deeper relationship focused. But Bronwyn, my partner Kevin, and myself, we sat down and just opened that up in conversation. We had some cacao, we created an altar, and we just unearthed a lot of that. And it can be hard to just dive into deep conversation. And so I feel like that card deck was really supportive. I hadn't picked up that card deck in a long time. The last time was actually with family. It was with my mom, my brother, his girlfriend, myself, and Kevin. And it was really the only time, I kind of think we should make that a tradition. It was the only time we all just sat down together in the living room and really talked. And you learn so much about each other, and it's really beautiful and it's really unique. So I will also link that card deck below because it's incredible. And if you feel called to drinking cacao, definitely the cold and the warming of cacao feels so good. You can view it as a plant medicine. You can view it as just something that is really earthy and nourishing for you. Cacao has so many benefits, but it's definitely my drink of choice to bring in ceremony. So specifically the cacao I'll usually be drinking is ceremonial cacao, and I get it from Maya Moon, which is an incredible cacao cafe in San Diego, but they also have a line of cacao that you can order. So I'll link that below. I have a code, but honestly, they just launched their affiliate program, so that's a small way to support. I just definitely recommend diving into cacao. I'll probably do a video one day on how I make it. I haven't been doing coffee in a while. I'll have my matcha, but cacao is really beautiful in setting that intention, and that's been another thing, is really ritualizing and creating ceremony in whenever you can. And I think that's part of bringing the magic into the mundane things. Obviously, every second of the day is not a ritual, but that's part of living a life in a yogic practice, because that doesn't mean you're perfect all the time. It doesn't mean you're on the path all the time. It means you're consistently rerouting. We're all just walking each other home. We're continuously coming back home, home here, home to our creator, home in relationship, home to our assignment and what we're put on this world to do, which is gonna not always feel clear, and it can continuously feel like it's changing and shifting. But creating those ceremonies and rituals, and that can be a breathwork practice, it can be a movement practice. If you do enjoy, chocolatey rich things, they do have a lot of deep minerals and antioxidants and nourishment, and I'll usually steep it in like a tea format. So I'm infusing a lot of herbs that are really good for you. I even put in some maca the other day. Maca is amazing for libido and sexual health, so I was bringing that, Scorpio nourishment in. But yeah, ritualizing it. And so any moment you can, when you remember, and don't have it be a stressful thing too, but the more you pause and allow yourself to take the deep breaths, you will definitely be divinely guided. And taking those moments and being really real with yourself, being real with your creator, and being like, yo, I'm struggling right now. I am not feeling connected to my body. I'm not feeling connected to my creator. I'm not feeling connected to the divine spirit. Guide me, help me come back home. And that's one of the things I really loved about nature, because nature is a little bit more tangible in that book, Intuition. And, even taking a step outside, whether you live amongst a national forest or you just have a splotch of grass outside where you live, taking a second and allowing that to reroute you. But then you go deeper, because there is a creator that created all of this at some point. And creating the ceremony, creating the rituals, and bringing that all back to town, because I had no idea what I was going to come on here and say. But yeah, these are just all of the things that have been alive for me, is being available to really receive and open yourself up to the present moment is the absolute most important thing before you even try to buy the thing that's gonna make you happy, or go on the trip that's gonna make you happy and give you the Instagram pictures and videos you wanted. The original trip that I thought we were gonna go on to Washington, like all the way up, I thought I was going to vlog a ton and have it be all exciting, and I feel like I was almost more focused on that than what's it gonna be like to just be still. And I don't think that's wrong either. I think it was all meant to be. I had no idea. Bronwyn did not tell me this is her backyard, and it was just meant to be. It was so meant to be that this was going to be the rerouting to the present moment, and I was just going to, I'm usually always like, I need my solo time, I need to be by myself, and that can sometimes be one of the conflicts that comes up in relationship, living with my partner for a few months now, and it's really wonderful. We work it out and there's an understanding there. But this specific week, or more than a week, because there have been 2 travel days back and forth too, so it's been like a week and a half, almost 2, being around either my partner or my friend or both, and around people the whole time has been different. And it actually hasn't been challenging. I think it was really meant to be, to lean into a time of deep connection and talks and going deep. And I had a friend tell me about the concept of parallel play, where you really allow yourself to just do your own thing and to essentially like play and cultivate your own vibe, even if you're just side by side another person. And that's a beautiful skill, I think, and it's something that all 3 of us in this little beautiful apartment barn that we learned to cultivate throughout the week. And it was so organic. We cooked amazing meals, and that about wraps up this conversation here. Thank you so much for taking a walk with me and tuning into all of these thoughts. I pray you have a beautiful rest of your Scorpio season, and I pray that you give yourself total acceptance to wind down for the year and slow down. Because I remember this time last year, it was a time where we were speeding up in the job I was in. It was a time where speeding up. Investment was coming in, big projects were launching, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas deals, New Year's. It felt like I was going the hardest during the time that I needed to slow down the most. And so I pray that whatever you're doing, you give yourself those pockets to slow down, slow cook warm, nourishing meals, have deep talks with friends and family and partners, and allow yourself to go inward, unearth, dive into your sexuality because it is so important. Allow yourself to come back home and have grace because it is a continuous rerouting, and it's never just all figured out, and we're never just in this place of bliss and having it figured out forever. This is the beauty of life, that we get to continue to come back home again and again and again. So that being said, thank you for tuning in and being in this journey, and for hearing me and for seeing me. I love you, and have a beautiful, beautiful day. Step out in nature, breathe, connect, have a conversation with your creator. Okay, I'm done now. You get the point.